listening to episode 37 of Mother's War on Violence. I'm your host, Yolanda Wallace. Thank you for tuning in today. And today we have a special guest, as all our guests are special. We have Chanel Hargrave-Murry. And she is with the Peoria Park District, as well as several different things that she does in the community. And we would just like to welcome her.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, great. So Chanel, thank you for accepting our invitation. Can you just tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do in the community?
Yes. So I'm originally from Oceanside, California. I've been here in Peoria now for 10 years. I moved here to be closer to my son. My kid's father lives in St. Louis. When we decided not to be together anymore, he kept our son and I kept our daughter. Oh. So just to be closer to my son, I decided to move here. I had a friend here and I moved here. I also work for the Peoria Park District. I'm the supervisor of community connections there. I absolutely love my job. They are really good to me. They allow me to, be as creative as possible within reasonable means, because I'm really big picture and I can kind of like we need a Ferris wheel. That's, things.
Well, so that means nobody should give you an idea and say, go run with this, Chanel, because it might be way bigger than what
As long as the budget allows it, yes. And so yes, I work for the Peoria Park District. I've been there now for a year. Some of the other things I do, I'm also the chairwoman for the Women in NAACP. I've been that now for 3 years.
Awesome.
We haven't been very active as much as I would like us to be, but this year we are coming back out. And, COVID kind of put a stop on a lot of things. And, 4 years now, because COVID was 4 years ago. That's crazy.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I also sit on the executive board for the Heart of Illinois Fairgrounds. I'm actually the first minority woman to ever sit on that board. The board's been around for about 115 years, something like that.
Wow.
Sorry if I get the year, how long it's been. And I'm the actual the treasurer for the executive board. And
well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Because that is awesome news.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to stay close to anything that has to do with horticulture, farm, things like that,
and culture as well.
Yes, definitely. And so for us to be in any types of rooms to advocate for each other and advocate for everyone as a whole is very important. And so, and then on top of that, I've met some amazing people. So.
Great. Well, and I still say, Chanel, you're very amazing yourself.
Thank you.
The fashion shows that you did, and I've watched you from a distance from years past, last year and the year before, and it's just like, wow, where do you get all your energy? Where do you get your strength? What builds you up?
Helping people, being a resource. I come from Oceanside, California, and home was very collaborative. So in Oceanside, you can tell who lived there, who was from Oceanside, because we were right next to a military base.
Okay.
And everyone in Oceanside wore Oceanside clothing. So you'll see if your friend had a clothing line, everyone there was wearing it. If your friend owned a restaurant, we were eating there. We really build each other up.
A lot of collaboration.
Okay. My husband can contest to that because he's a videographer. So when I took him home to meet my family, one of my best friends owned this really big barbecue. I say owned because he sold it. And now he lives in the mountains in California.
Okay.
And he owned this really big barbecue spot, and we were there during Labor Day where they had the parade, the city parade.
Okay.
And so they let my husband, on the cruiser, and he was on the cruiser leading the parade, and my kids were holding the sign, and all the other videographers would see him with his camera and come up, and they would just start talking to him. They gave him a lot of information on how to get better shots and how to, what to do with your camera. So he was able to connect with those people they don't even know him.
Wow.
They just walked up and was like, hey, bro, you do this too, on their
Right.
skateboards. And then they would share information. It's a lot of information sharing. And so that's kind of the type of world that I grew up in. So when I came to Peoria, I wanted to assist with that still because it's kind of in my DNA at this point.
Right.
And so
Do you find the same type of collaboration here as you do there?
in places, yes.
Okay.
Certain areas, yes.
It's kind of spotty.
It is spotty, but I also think it's a generational thing. You
Okay.
know, when people are used to a certain thing and they get comfortable being that way, it's kind of hard to step outside those boxes.
Right.
And so you just, you gotta let people be great. That's my thing. Let people be great.
And you know what? And when you let people be great, they're good at what they do.
They really are. Yeah.
And it's way more far beyond what you could think or imagine them to be or to do. Because, like you said, some people are more specialized in helping others, and other people are more introverted, and those type of things. So, awesome. So, what's your next upcoming event?
Whew, I have a lot.
Okay.
So, of course, March 24th, I will be sitting on a panel, and I'm very honored to be one of the queens this year for the Tea with Queens with your organization.
Yes.
So
I haven't had a
appreciate
chance to
that.
even talk about
I'm
that,
sorry.
but we got, that's okay, but we got the, we got some assistance this year. We got our very first grant, so we're excited about that. But I think even if we hadn't got that grant, you know me, Chanel.
You're gonna make it happen.
I'm going to make it happen. I'm a community person like you, and I believe going hard and going big for my community. And I'm glad you accepted our invitation, as well as we have Martha Ross. We have Crystal
Frost.
Yes, she's our speaker as well. And me, and I am privileged to be sharing a panel with you because we all come from different walks of life. And those type of stories, I think that we get away from that as far as women in the community and ladies, and to build up and to mentor the younger women. And our theme for that event, which is March the 24th, is Titus 2, which is in the Bible, about the older women mentoring the younger women. And later on, we will have another one in May for men.
That's amazing.
So I'm really excited about what I always say, what the Lord is doing in me, because for him to give me those ideas, I just don't even know. I don't think I can pop them up on my own. They just, kind of come there, and I thank him for that vision. And then we just go from there. And what else do you have going on besides that Tea with Queens?
So in April, we are preparing right now for our second annual Peoria Fashion Week.
Okay.
And so it's pretty exciting because this year we have about 17 different designers.
Okay.
We have some guest speakers that are coming out. I don't want to really name drop anyone
Okay.
yet.
Okay. That's fine.
But that's been the fashion has been a real journey. I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about how I collaborate. I've learned a lot about my leadership skills, things that I really needed to work on, things I needed to take in considerations. I've learned how empathetic I am in places that I lack in empathy.
Okay.
And so, and then even with my husband, we've grown really, really close.
And how many years you been married?
We've only been married since 2020.
Okay.
So, but we've been together for almost 10 years now.
Okay.
So, but
Great.
we've always worked together hand in hand, but actually having our own production that we're putting on, it really tests a lot of our boundaries, and it really tests our skills and, things
I'm
like
sure.
and tested our love really.
I'm sure.
And so knowing that we can get past anything and still be together and work together collaboratively, it's very inspiring. So my husband actually had been doing these fashion shows in a smaller scale for years before I moved here.
Oh, wow.
And so he was doing a lot of shows in Chicago. He was doing shows here and there here. And then me being an organizer, I just kind of watched, and I'm like, let me know when you're ready for me to come in. And so he brought me in, we put a team together, and then we created the Peoria Fashion Week. And one of the greatest things that I believe is happening through Peoria Fashion Week is fashion is culture. And whenever you can highlight culture in a city, you're not only helping small business owners, you're not only helping the small restaurant owners, things like that. You are creating a space where people actually want to come to Peoria and stay in our hotels, and and that's building the economy. Right now we're still a very small production, but
Right.
looking ahead, I can definitely see it becoming something that will be a staple here in Peoria. And back to the Tea with Queens, teaching other young women how to do what we're doing now. Because I say it all the time, I don't want to do this forever.
Right.
I want to learn and then pass the baton.
And pass the
Just
torch.
like the baton was passed to me.
That's right.
And so it's and with that, we've been able to assist. There were designers that came to us and were like, I couldn't sell one shirt until I started working with you, and
Wow.
their sales have increased 75%.
That's
We
a
had a
blessing.
designer that came out from Aurora, and he only did 2 shows with us, and every time he sold out after.
Wow.
So now he's actually working for a major designer in LA.
That's a blessing.
Yeah.
You know, fashion design, it's a different level of art
It
as
really
well.
is.
And here in Peoria, we've had some fashion designers here, but like you said, we've never had our takeoff moment where they could actually go more than just like a, mom and pop, small venue of a show. But I think that's wonderful what you bring to Peoria and what you and your husband as a team work together to create this atmosphere. Now, I've never been personally to the fashion shows, but everything I heard about it is so positive. I want to go. I have to go.
You definitely have to go.
Yeah, because it's just like this other favorite place that I have in Peoria, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it, the Peoria Riverfront Museum is my favorite place to go.
It's a great
as far
place.
as it, and it's because it's culturized,
Yes.
and it just has so many different facets to it. It's open for growth. It's open for opportunity, and I think fashion is the same way.
It is. It is.
When it comes to designing, and do you help them with modeling as well? Because I've heard lots of things about the people who fashion these clothes, that they're models, some of them.
Yes, so we do help with the models. I am not a model coach, so I tell people
Oh.
that off bat, I am not a model coach.
Okay.
I can help you get resources to get into places, but I am not a model coach. If you see
Okay.
me walk, I waddle. So so I leave that to, the people that are really great at that. However, my daughter was Miss Teen Illinois Earth in 2022, and that really opened up a lot of doors for her,
Okay.
and it also opened up a lot of networks for us.
Okay, now what is her name, your daughter's name?
Leilani Taylor.
Okay, that is such a beautiful
Thank
name.
you.
And she's a beautiful young lady.
Thank you. And so through those avenues, we were able to network and bring some of those networks back home. And so there are just a few, not a lot, a few models that have came to me and asked me for help, and now they are excelling. And I don't want to take the credit for it because I did not do the work.
Right.
But like a mother, I help them find the resources, do the research, do the casting calls, do
Okay.
the, things like that. Together, we work together. Like I said, I don't want to take credit for any of their,
Right.
because they did that. They wanted it enough. Just the same with my daughter. She is my daughter, but she wanted it, so she went and got it.
Right.
And I'm grateful that she listened to me. But like I said, that is all their work. So in a sense, yes, we do help the models as well, the ones that reach out to us.
Okay.
It's not as big as what we do for the designers, but when models do reach out to us, we definitely try to help them and get them into spaces that they may not have been able to get into before.
Okay, cool. And then we know the month of March celebrates women's, all kind of women. It's the Women Month. And there's so many women that have done so many extraordinary things. Who would you say was out of all the women in the world that you looked up to, who was your was it, who was your mentor? Who was your person you wanted to be like? I mean, what?
I think it changed over the years. So when I was younger, I'm trying to think. When I was younger, I just wanted to play basketball. I was a basketball player.
Okay.
So it was like, I can't even remember their names. They were basketball players from like the 90s. But it was some of the basketball players for the WNBA at the time. But as I have gotten older and I started to experience life, I started to look at the things that I went through was nothing compared to what my mother and my grandmother went through. So my grandmother and my mother, my grandmother was an immigrant that came here from Samoa.
Okay.
And some of the stories and the things that she had to go through, with the language barrier, things like that, it put her in a situation where she couldn't get a job because of the language barrier, but she just ended up raising a whole bunch of people's children to the point so much so where if you look at it in the full picture, it was more like she was their slave. And so just watching what she went through and how she protected us from whatever all of that stuff was, I just really looked up to her, And then when I looked at my mother and what she went through, she wasn't raised here, but she graduated in New Jersey. And she went to the Army, and even though she knows English, it was still a cultural barrier.
Okay.
And so with the cultural barrier and the things that she went through, it was just a little difficult for her to understand. So the Samoan culture, we're all about service. Right. Selfless service. And that's something that we were taught from a very young age. And, the same as, you're to see your children, you're to be seen, not heard. You're to serve your elders, things like that.
Well, nowadays they tell you that's being abusive to even tell your kids those things. But as a Black person, have lived my whole life in America, that was our culture. That was the way our original culture of how we were, and so. When it came to disrespecting your parents and stuff like that, it was not allowed. It was not tolerated.
Yes.
The neighbors might come and see you. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
The
entire neighborhood.
Exactly. The whole entire neighborhood. So you're younger than me. So what you're expressing is like an old ancient time for me that my grandmother, she taught us this is how we were raised. And then as the generations went on, and the state and the government got involved, it changed the structure of the Black family.
Yes.
Because we used to be that way. I mean, there's, I think, as far as other cultures and stuff, a lot of them still keep most of their cultures. Even the Hispanics, I think they still keep their culture of their, not everything, but as the years go by, it seems like we're losing more and more and more of our born culture.
Yes. So I definitely relate to that as well because my father is African American. So I was also raised around my father's family where it was the same thing applied, If my grandmother was in the kitchen cooking, I had to be in the kitchen cooking with her, even if I wanted to be outside playing football with the guys.
That's right. See?
And so the difference, I believe, because there's really not a difference, it's just wording. So in the African American culture, with my African American family, it was don't disrespect your elders.
Right.
But in the Samoan culture, it was honor. And when it came to honor, anything you did, it could be disrespectful. You are dishonoring your family.
Right.
And that was very harsh growing up, having to deal with that.
It
was very hard. It was something that, I really had to learn how to, of course, through therapy and things like that, how to be okay with failing. Because that was something that we were not allowed to ever do. You are not to be a failure,
Right.
And so I'm grateful that I'm able to still instill some of those things into my children, but not so much so where they are afraid to fail.
Right.
And so that's why I believe a lot of their wins are so much greater because they know I failed 10,000 times before.
Right.
and I know what it feels like to fail. So that's why this win feels so much better.
It does, right.
And so, yeah.
So they can fight to get back up and have something to look forward to. Yeah. That's so true. When I think about our youth here in Peoria, and you work in the schools and that, and, are you able to use those talents there to uplift and build those kids up as well?
Yes, and so not as much as I would like to, just
Right.
because you have to have a really, really, really
Good relationship.
good
probably.
relationship. And so a lot of it is relationship building. And because unfortunately, a lot of our youth, they are moved from home to home to home so much.
Right.
They're not in the same place. So it's hard for us to come in, say, for instance, I start off at a school with freshmen.
Right.
And I'm expecting them to be there all 4 years. But they're getting moved around because of the barriers that our families in poverty have, and so they're moving around trying to figure out the bare necessities of life. And it's hard to build that relationship when I don't know where these kids are going all the time. So, but there are a lot of children as well that I've been able to have relationships, not relationships like that, but I wanted to clear but just have that mentor relationship
That's
with.
right.
And so even
That's why you was one of the ladies that Mothers War on Violence chose
Thank you.
for our panel discussion, because you are that go-getter. You are that boots on the ground type person, as well as our other candidates who share the panel with us, as we know that, it's really going to take a village, and it's definitely going to take us women, because I realize there's another thing I want to say about women as well. Even though most of us have been, most single-parent family homes have been women, I feel like there's something, we contribute to some of that extra stuff too. Not saying that it's just we've been all of us have been perfect, which none of us are, but when it comes to raising kids and caring about your neighbor's kids and somebody else's kids, the women that we have today, they don't know anything about that. And so they more are self-centered. So when it comes to trying to, oh, hey, I seen you doing this, I'm going to go tell your mom. Instead of this being a good thing, the mom wants to snap off and say, what are you doing talking about my kid? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it really is destroying those relationships that us as women should be trying to build in the sisterhood of getting to know one another, caring for each other in our community. Don't you agree?
I do agree. I definitely agree with that. But I can also see both sides. So there have been cases when I've spoken to parents, and from what I'm gathering is that the system also failed them.
Exactly.
And so now their kids are in that same system, and they understand, like, hey, when I was in school, this stuff was happening to me, and I was getting blamed, and I wasn't being taught how to handle certain situations. So I was only doing what I knew how to do, which was turn to violence. And so now that their kids are doing the same thing, their parents are more empathetic to what's happening with their kids, because when they were going home trying to express what they were going through to their parents was like, get out of my face, you know? So I totally agree with you on there is a disconnect with women, but there's also that piece that we're missing when it's building relationships with the parents as well, especially the mothers, because they're hurting still. They're hurting from what they went through as a child.
Oh, yeah. And they're raising kids.
Exactly. So we might be looking at a 30-year-old mother, but inside she might still be that little girl that's still hurt. So it's just so deep.
It is.
It's so deep.
Which is why we're having this whole panel discussion, with having tea with queens, because we want to try to talk about, those barriers, those situations, because believe it or not, I'm almost 60, and there's some women I know that still have that little child in them as well, who hasn't been free, who hasn't, broke down those barriers of those things that happened to them when they were kids, taking away that shame, that doubt, and I can honestly say myself, sometimes I think I have a little bit of those insecurities still left from my childhood, because of the disconnect and situations that I had, and as a child, and I'm sure that our parents in the school district and everywhere else have those same kind of issues.
I agree. And I still have some of those things that I'm trying to sort out. I also think because social media is what it is, it kind of runs us now.
It does.
It does not allow people to figure out how to heal. So, for example, you might do something that someone else might not like. Instead of coming, that person might have the tools to help you. But instead of coming and helping you, they go to social media and they bash you.
They blast you.
And that's the horrible thing, because now not only do you have that trauma that you've had before, now you have the trauma that's being built on top of that.
Right.
And you see it all the time, And so I feel like because social media is what it is, we live in such a fast you need results right now.
So you mean cyberbullying with our youth and our kids. And sometimes when kids get into it with their parents, they turn to social media. And the word is gaslighting.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Most definitely.
Yeah.
So I mean, I have teenagers too. I definitely go through their social medias, and especially with TikTok right now, I notice a lot of kids, they don't post, but they'll share they'll share a video that makes them that reflects how they feel.
Yeah,
so for me, if I see my children share, and I'll sit them down and I'll be like, hey, I noticed this. Is there anything you want to talk about? Or let's figure it out, because I'm not perfect. I have to tell my kids all the time, I'm living life for the first time too.
Right.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm growing up with you. And that's the truth. A lot of parents, we grow up with our kids because there's no manual.
No.
There is no manual.
No, and guess what? And even with each child with our child raising and rearing and stuff, we're in different levels. So what I was in the year that I first had my first child, I'm in a total different frame of mind, a total different woman by the time I came to my last child. You know what I mean? So, and sometimes that's hard for our young people to understand. But anyway, I'm glad that you joined us on our show today. And I'm glad that we're talking about passing the torch to the next generation, because I think that's so important when we're talking about, like you said, building relationships and trying to move forward. I mean, we know that there may be some tough times coming ahead, but if we can work on our interpersonal skills a little bit and our relationships and what I see sometimes on the commercial, be kind, be a little bit sympathetic and have some empathy towards somebody else, because their situation is totally different than yours.
Exactly.
And we don't know what they're going through.
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
Well, your upcoming event is the fashion show, and what day is that?
The fashion show is actually April 3rd through the 6th, so each day it will have a different theme. April 2nd is our opening, and that is more of like a meet and greet with the designers, models, VIP, sponsors, things like that. So, and it'll be at the Exposition Gardens. Okay. And it's going to be a great time.
Awesome. And how much are the tickets?
Right now, they are $30 a day.
Okay. $30 a day? Okay, cool. That ought to be really nice. So I encourage our listening audience, if you get a chance, to get your tickets. And are they online?
They are online. You can go to www.thepeoriafashionweek.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ms. Chanel. And thank you, listening audience, for listening to another podcast of Mothers War on Violence.